Hi, Adrian Bugatti. For those who don't know me, I have a company called Cashering Your Life, where I teach people how to budget, how to save money, especially around their grocery shopping. So I thought today I'm going to do a long-awaited and requested video, and that is on envelope budgeting. I started envelope budgeting a couple of years ago when we were really in absolute dire straits, and it changed everything. It didn't make the debt go away, I have to admit, but it didn't get us into more debt, and that was quite an important thing. So what is envelope budgeting? Envelope budgeting is basically putting money into different envelopes that are marked for specific things, um, different categories. What happens is sorry, from looking down, when you buy you get your salary every month, you pay all your regular bills, your online ones, so your rent or your bond, your water and lights, your rates and taxes, if you have DSTV, if you have medical aid, your insurance and your school fees, and childcare if it's more than R1,000. So you pay that, and then you take what's left, draw the whole lot in cash. I know it's a bit scary to do that if there is anything left, and divide it into envelopes. Now, I must admit, I do a lot of online shopping, so I use a debit card to pay for that. And it's the same as having cash, because if there's no money in it, you can't buy your shopping. Now, the problem with online shopping is it tends to scare people. I do a whole month at a time, so you suddenly get this bill of like R4,000, and everyone gets a bit of a shock. But if you don't do the online shopping, chances are your food bill is going to be a lot higher than that, because you're just going to the shops all the time. I have a few clients who can attest to the change in their habits, and that it does drop their bill. Okay, so there's another thing. Using my envelope budgeting for groceries, I use it for milk, for bread, for eggs, and probably some butter. Things that are not going to last for a whole month. So your fruit and vegetables is another one. And how do you work this out? Well, you work out, and it's pretty easy to work out if you're paying attention. How much milk do you use every week? How much bread do you use every week? So my family are not big bread eaters, so we go through about 6 loaves a week. It's a family of 8, so 6 loaves is nothing. We go through 2 liters a week. It's changed slightly since I first drew up my budget. Some of my milk has to be lactose free because I've got one person who's lactose intolerant in the house. So that adjusted the budget. You've got to watch also with prices going up and down, and who is cheapest. I know one store I saw, they had a big special on 2 liters of milk for R26 a 2 liter, but their house brand was R21. So be very careful with that. Special doesn't mean special. I've got a lot of big fruit eaters, so I budget for buying fruit every 2 weeks. I must admit, I do go to places like Woolworths or to proper fruit shops, because the vegetables will last longer. There are certain things I do go to fruit and veg for, and that's because I can use 10 kilos of potatoes in a week, in 2 weeks at the most. Like I said, there's 8 of us. Carrots, I'll buy, and then what I'll do is I'll share with my sister-in-law, say, because we don't use that many carrots. Onions, I use a lot of onions. We often have onion soup. So, buying a big bag of onions isn't going to affect my budget that much. If it's going to go off, don't buy it. So when you want to make use of the deals at fruit and veg, go in with a friend. Okay. And I only go to the shops on a Sunday. So that's an important thing. Like I said, childcare, if it's less than R1,000 per month, put it into an envelope for budgeting. Otherwise, pay it online. Your petrol or your gas, work out how often do you fill up your car. How many of us have gone, and it's towards the end of the month, and payday is still a couple of days away, but your petrol light just came on, and now you're stuck. What are you going to do? Do you have enough money for that? So you need to put that in. And then I put a tiny little bit extra, like R100 extra, just in case I've got further lifts and stuff to do. And I'll work it all out on sort of what are the extramurals that the kids are going to be doing for the week, and any other running around that I'm going to have to do. Right. Draw up your envelopes, label them, your groceries, petrol money. Tuck shop money is another one. So if your kids are getting allowances, if they get a weekly allowance, put the weekly allowance into an envelope. If they get a monthly allowance, well, then that's their problem. But teach them to envelope budget for their their monthly allowance, and get them into a very good habit. Our spending habits are developed as children by around about the age of 5, according to Susie Orman. So getting them into good spending habits really is an important thing. Then here's the thing with envelope budgeting. You have to be fairly disciplined. It's quite important. You've got this cash lying around your house. If you're not disciplined, it disappears in a week. I had one client who said, like, her husband gave her all this money every week, and she said it didn't last 3 days, and it was supposed to be for an entire week. So you've got to be quite disciplined with that. With envelope budgeting, it really, really, really works. And there are some rules. Don't borrow from another envelope. If there's no money, there's no money. Done. Okay, that's important. Remember, whatever money is left over from shopping goes back into that envelope. And sometimes you get lucky and you have for the next month a little extra. Nowadays, I don't keep that extra for the groceries. I actually put it away into a savings account. But beforehand, when I was first struggling, that money made a huge difference to the next month. So it's important that you stick to that. What happens is, with an envelope, you go to the shops on your Sunday, okay, I'm just going to give random amounts. 250 Rand for fruit and veg for that week. Your milk is 150 Rand. Your bread is 70 Rand. You're taking only that 370 Rand into the store with you, nothing more. So you can only buy what you planned on. Okay, and that's quite important. It's that there's nothing extra. So you can't impulse buy. You can't go shopping and just feel, oh, I'm hungry. You know what, this will look nice. That'll look nice for supper, or that'll be great. It's too bad. It's done. Okay. The only time you can borrow from those envelopes is during like a major emergency, like your geysers burst. You're going to need your if you've got insurance, you're going to need to pay your excess. So you've got that cash. Obviously, we don't want to use it, because then what you're doing for the rest of the month, but it's there if you need it. And once again, you've got a tangible budget, because to sit down and work out what your envelope budgets are going to be, you have to sort of know what your spending is going to be. In the beginning, what I did, I took out a set amount of cash, say like 3,000 Rand. And that 3,000 Rand was going to be only for my envelope budgeting. And then I split it up. And after that, so from that month on, that's what I drew every month, because it worked. Obviously, as lifestyles change, as prices go up, you're going to need to adjust that. And sometimes, you can't get as much as you'd like. But that's why it's important to put your change back into your envelope, so that you've got the money for the next month. Another thing is, you don't have an overdraft. If you haven't got it, you can't spend it. The down thing is that because you're paying cash, you don't always get your points. So you can use your Smart Shopper card at Pick n Pay, or your loyalty card at Spar, or any of those places, but you're not going to earn your eBucks or your UCount or whatever it is. That is a downside, but until you're out of debt, it doesn't really matter that you're not earning those, as long as you're using your coupons. And if you want to know how to do that, I have a video called Couponing for South Africa. And this one video will also be put onto YouTube. So for those who aren't sure about that. So the cons of this is, well, first of all, you've got to convince the entire family that they've got to participate in this. And that can be a little difficult, especially if you're not the main breadwinner. And the main breadwinner goes, no, he doesn't like having the cash, or she doesn't like having the cash lying around. That kind of, it might get stolen. You need to find somewhere safe for all your envelopes. And the other thing is, it's very tempting with having cash on hand that you get your envelope together and that you do have the full amount of budgeting and everything that's it's done there. Another thing that is quite important is when you're setting your categories. So before you even go to an envelope budgeting, you have to have a good idea of how much do you need to live. You know, what are your fixed expenses? Like I said, your bond, okay, water and lights are not really fixed, but you do know more or less summer and winter what the difference is. Winter is usually about double, which is quite scary in South Africa. And you have to pay those first. You've got to pay your car, you've got to pay your rent, your water and lights first, because without any of those, envelope budgeting doesn't work. If you haven't got a home, you've got no water or electricity to make the food with, and you haven't got a car to get to work to earn your salary. So that's an important thing. And that's quite hard to do because a lot of people, it sort of, then there's nothing left. And that's why in the beginning, I started taking the money out beforehand. So I had enough, just barely, and whatever I didn't have enough for, if it was possible, I would cancel it or change it. So my cell phones, we went off cell phone contracts and onto prepaid. You can always go back onto your contract, depending on why you've got the contract. If it works out cheaper for you to have a contract, then definitely stick to the contract. For us, it worked out cheaper to not have contracts and to do prepaid, even with all the teenagers. So those are important things to remember. I know the stores sometimes when you go in, like you're going to buy prepaid, you have to use your cash. They don't take cards. So those are, well, not they don't take cards, but it's if you're going to a machine to get your prepaid then it's important. If you're at the till, you're doing your shopping anyway, so use the cash, take that cash with you to get your extra money. And that's quite an important thing. If you've got little kids, put aside a little bit of money for the tooth fairy. Teeth are getting very expensive these days. I'm so glad I'm done. But put that aside for your tooth fairy or your tooth mouse or whatever it is. And then keep a little bit aside. Now, I had the envelope marked entertainment. Not that my husband and I ever went anywhere, but what it was that once a month we got takeaways. We found the cheapest version of takeaways. For us, it was one giant pizza with no toppings. I added the toppings when they arrived home because it was cheaper that way. But you buy your basic pizzas and that's your takeaway night. You don't have to go out. You're not buying the cold drink that comes with the pizza and somebody wanting dessert and somebody wanting salad, but you're still getting a treat. And that's an important part of envelope budgeting. So I hope this helped, and I hope this, helps you change your life and make things a little easier. Thanks for listening.